Margaret and I took a trip, and there was this antique store, and we decided to stop at it. And every poem I write has a story that I like to tell about it before I read it, and because it has real meaning to me. Some of these I can hardly get through without breaking up myself. But anyways, we went through this antique store, and I just came out struck, touched. Maybe not necessarily in a good way, but it was a realization to me. We took a trip to an antique store today and saw so many old personal items on display. Pictures of folks we never knew, stacks of them you could file through. Oil lamps and kitchenware. People walk through, they just seem to stare at all these old items, each with its price tag. On our way home, I looked at Margaret and said, how sad it is to have on display all these old personal items we saw today. For their meaning is gone, and now it's money they want, a piece they can take back and say, I got it in Vermont. Charlie Spooner was a man who lived on Spooner Road, where I used to live as well. And his big claim was he lived there for 97 years and never spent a night off the farm. And when I knew him, it was late in life, and he lived a life that most people would shun. He was dirty and chewed tobacco, and his shirt was crusted with it. And he had lots of dogs, and I just used to love to sit and drink beer and talk with him, because the wisdom that came out of that man would stun me. He had lived a whole life on that farm. So I'm going to try to read you this poem without getting emotional. I call it Charlie Spooner. I didn't know Charlie until he was bent and old. You could see in his face there were stories to be told. His hands were gnarled from a lifetime of hard work on the farm. He carried on after his father died. He stayed to be by his mother's side. So proud of the record he'd set on his own, 89 years and never a night away from home. Perhaps that explains why he went through life without ever taking a wife. Dogs there were many he called in by name, Tippy, Babe, Fido, and they all looked the same. He loved his farm on Spooner Road. It was his life, young and old. Cattle and pigs to care for and feed, wood to cut and hay to get in. A lot of work for one man, old, bent, and thin. It all came to an end that February day. I walked in the house and there he lay, back in his chair, feet up by the stove. I knew then there would be no more stories to be told by this man with his wisdom and wit. The life he lived there never did anyone any harm. Complain as he did, he always said, if I had to do it all over again, I'd farm.
Thank you, Stuart.
God, I apologize for
Stuart Osha at Turkey Hill Farm in Vermont. Randolph Center, Vermont, and he's reading from his book, A Dying Way of Life. This is a good life. Hey, Ruby.
Where is